Hey, what up, Deckheads? This is the Deckhead Podcast. I'm your co host, Joshua Smith.
And I'm your other co host, Ty Warren. And this episode is about our favorite ways to play the game, or in other words, the only way you should play the game. Um,
Naturally.
yeah, so we're going to each have our top five ways to play the game. And, we'll start with our fifth and we'll end with the grand finale of what we love about Magic. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Um, so my number five pick is Enchantress decks. So Enchantress, what I like about it so much is it's just like it's really hard to like remove. Like it's hard to deal with one thing. Like there may
Yeah.
be like some enchantment that's like susceptible to enchantment removal, but on top of that, there's not that much enchantment removal, but it's almost like the whole deck
No.
is kind of like a working machine. And like removing
Yeah.
one part doesn't really stop it.
I agree. Some of the most fun I've ever, actually, the most fun Magic game I've ever played in my life was using the Enchantress Precon from Duskmorn. It just feels so good to have like a million enchantments on the board that just like all work with each other somehow, some way. It's beautiful when it works.
Yeah, there's so much enchantment support in Magic, and there's a lot of commanders that can really like lean into that. And so I guess what I'm trying to get at is like my favorite thing about it is the reliability of it is like
Yeah.
it's almost like every time you play, you know that you're not gonna have a game that's like, oh, I just sit here and do nothing. It's I feel like most
Yeah.
times you play an Enchantress deck, you're like, all right, at least I'm gonna like, do what I want to do. At least I'm gonna do the thing that my deck's supposed to do.
Yeah. And a lot of times you'll get those situations where like there's not a lot of, enchantment interaction. I mean there is, but like decks aren't running specific, enchantment hate anymore. It's like a green player or white, you're not gonna see a lot of enchantment hate from a lot of these other colors. And that too, if it is, it's in the way of destroy target permanent. And it kind of feels good too. It's not nearly as much of a feel bad whenever someone destroys your enchantment with a destroy target permanent because it's kind of a waste of their resources as much as like yes, you lose my thing, but they had to expend so much more mana and so many more resources just to get rid of my little enchantment. And a lot of times, I mean, depending on the deck, it doesn't even have to be necessarily that good of an enchantment, or maybe it's a cheap enchantment. Like, here's my combo piece. Like, this is helping my deck so much they have to answer it. Although by itself, it's not that great. And now they're wasting a destroy target permanent card that costs, 4 mana. And, that's not nearly as big of a feel bad as it is if it's just like, you know, here's 1 mana. I shorts the plowshare. Your creature, your giant 24/24 dinosaur coming at me. That hurts because you spend all that time making that giant, dinosaur just for 1 mana to get rid of it. But with an enchantment, it's like, oh, my enchantment costs 3, and that remove target permanent
Yeah,
costs 4.
yeah. It's like whenever you get like a good enchantment down, it's almost like, oh, that is just passive value for the rest of the game. Granted, there are like some enchantments that like have enter the battlefield or like leave the battlefield effects, but those are few and far in between. It's more so like it's gonna stay there and it's gonna like generate me some value up until someone removes it. And yeah, the only thing the reason why it's in my number five spot and not any higher is like just to be honest, it's annoying. Uh, there,
Yeah.
yeah, some enchantment decks like you go up against, or I have a sense of like pride, uh, and I just feel bad sometimes because you might be in a pod, or you might be playing with your friends who don't really run that kind of removal because it either might just be like they don't play it because they think it's rude, or where they just don't, on an average table, you might see a couple enchantments, but if you're playing a whole enchantment deck, it gets kind of ridiculous of like the type of removal you need for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it's in my number 5 spot rather than anything higher, is because I feel a little cringe. Like I feel like a little wiener when I play it sometimes because I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna passively play my own game and then I'll win eventually. But for now, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna generate this value and
Or that too, like you'll run into those games where it's like, oh wow, I have all these enchantments out and I have all this protection out, like no one can touch me. And it's like, damn, how do I win the game now? You know, it's like
yeah,
I
that
have all this stuff out, it's beautiful, it's awesome, but I can't affect anything. Like I'm just like playing a single player game almost,
yeah,
you know?
I feel like a lot of enchantment decks follow that like pillow fort archetype, which is I hate to play. I feel like that just makes everyone else not have that much fun.
Yeah.
But there's some commanders that kind of stray away from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess that's like overall why it's in my number 5. I think it's really fun, but it it can be annoying, and I feel like I'm a depending on the day, I'd say 9 times out of 10, I want everyone to have fun at the table, and
Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah. So
But
so
yeah.
what do you got in your number 5?
My number 5 spot, I kind of went a little more broad here, but I love flying. I love, and not just like, oh, here's my flying deck, which I love that too. Like, here's my flyer deck. It has a bunch of flyers in it. I think that's fun because it's like no matter what, your product value. Because like, yeah, people. I mean, every deck probably has some flying in it or reach, but like you get to a point when it's every creature you have out on the board has flying. You know that just it becomes so overwhelming, and there's nothing that I love more. Excuse me, than giving your stuff flying. When it's like, you have this board state and everyone's like, wow, Josh has a good board state, but so does everyone else, like he has no way to win with that. And then you just play a card that just gives everything flying. I love that feeling. It's just like here's a big frick you. Like trample kind of gives that same effect, but like with trample you have to have big creatures out and you have to have a lot of power on board. You have to have a lot of giant creatures that are able to just punch through. But I
Yeah,
just love good.
yeah, it's probably like one of the best forms of evasion in combat, or like it's just so. I mean, it's simple. It's like, do you have reach or flying? If not, this is gonna connect to you basically.
Yes, it feels like you're like coasting through the game. Cause like I have this flyer and it's just like I look over and I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm done thinking. That's it. Like I just know what I need to do now. I'm gonna swing at you because you can't do anything about it. It's just so it feels good. I like it. It makes the game so simple because like it's like whenever you don't have flying, it's like, man, you gotta go through which this is obviously I mean, this is a fun part of Magic that I do enjoy, but I like the simplicity of flying. Just kind of lay back and instead of having to like think through all these avenues, like, okay, how do I get this creature through? Like, how do I damage? And with flying, it's just kind of like, oh, you don't have flying? That's easy. And like, probably, like I said, one of my favorite win cons in any of my decks is Eldrazi Monument.
Hmm.
This card
Yeah,
says creatures you control get +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. At the beginning of your upkeep, can't sacrifice Eldrazi. It feels so good to have a bunch of giant Eldrazi. And people are like, damn, that guy's clearly the threat, but I have like 4/1/1s out. It's fine. I have cannon fodder. I can block. No one ever expects you to give your giant Eldrazi flying. No one thinks it's going to happen. And when it does happen, it's detrimental. I mean, it's game ending. That's a card like I play this card, I win the game, and it feels so good every time.
Yeah, like you said, it's game ending. It literally is. It's because people sometimes, well, I feel like most players when they read that card and they're like, it has the last sentence of sacrifice this if you can't sacrifice something. More times than often, you're playing that card to end the game and you just win. So
Yeah.
that really doesn't like go into effect. But like let's say it doesn't. The worst case scenario, you have an indestructible blocker that you can use for the rest of the turn cycle, and you can. I'm sure you can find something to sacrifice with it. And if you can't, you still have a whole board of well, not anymore
Eldrazi.
flyers, but Eldrazi's. But yeah,
Yeah, I was playing a game last night, and I had a friend who played that card, just to play because he had the mana for it. I told him, I was like, stop, don't play that card. I was like, you don't have anything to sacrifice. You can't win the game off of that. I was like, you need to wait and play it because this was a new player. He doesn't even own his own decks. He just plays whenever I'm in town. So I kind of had to help him out. I was like, stop, don't play that because you're only gonna sacrifice. You have two Eldrazi on the board. You need to wait until you can really win the game off of this card. This isn't just a play and get passive value kind of card.
yeah, um, yeah. Overall, flying is probably the best form of evasion in Magic right now. Uh, Super reliable
Yeah.
and but yeah, really fun archetype.
Yes, especially depends on the meta. Like a lot of like your meta, like I know my meta is super flyer heavy, so like if I can pull out like I have this flyer deck that's pretty terrible in all reality. It's not, but like I can pull it out and still win games with it because every card in the deck's flying, and with my meta, it's just not equipped to really handle flying because there's only one deck that really revolves around.
Yeah,
So
but yeah, I guess I'll go into my number four spot. But yeah, flying, very good, very fun. Can win games.
yeah.
but my number four, this one I did kind of go broad with this one. It's just graveyard manipulation. So the reason why I like this one so much is uh, it's like a pseudo card advantage. It's it's
Yeah.
your graveyard is something that everyone can see, and if you build your deck around playing with your graveyard, then it's like all of a sudden those cards that all those like let's say 20 cards, like those 20 cards that were just sitting there now and just like in someone else's deck might be useless, are now just a resource you can use. uh i think I think a lot of people might look at graveyard decks as in like uh oh, they just want to uh get creatures there and then get value out of like the creatures being there or something, like reanimate and stuff. But I feel like nowadays there's so much support for just almost any kind of recursion. Like there's so much
Yeah.
like just permanent recursion now instead of just like creature recursion. So like uh like I was talking about Enchantress earlier, there's I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's an Enchantress commander that brings back your enchantments from your graveyard to the battlefield as enchantment creatures.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it's like I just think it's like a super flexible way to play, and it's really fun. And the reason why it's in my fourth spot over something else is I'm sure actually we played a game together, Josh, where someone was playing a graveyard deck, and you had I think it was Progenesis Relic, which you can literally just tap it to
Yeah.
exile a card in their graveyard, and
Yeah.
you basically had him in a soft lock. Like there was nothing he could do. You just you had him by the balls.
Yes.
You just at any moment, if he were to do something, you could just tap your thing in response, and then boom, his deck is just kind of turned off.
What's funny about that is I actually put that card in that deck with that friend in mind. He has it's actually at the time it was his own. I actually this is kind of messed up. actually. It was his only deck at the time. He just got into Magic. I helped him pick out the. I was like, yeah, it was the Modern Horizons Precon, the one that cares about like Tarmogoyfs and the graveyard. Well, obviously with Tarmogoyfs, but it was the Modern Horizons 3 Precon. I was like, yeah, this is. He played it and he enjoyed it, and he would win games with it naturally. Strong deck, really strong game plan, and it was my first deck I'd ever built. I just kind of get and I had that Progenitus relic, and I was literally as soon as I saw, I was like, I have to play this deck just in case I pull it out against Lugius, and it was like my turn one play, and I felt so good and dirty, like I just had like a shit eating grin on my face because I was like, that's it, you don't get to play the game anymore. We're gonna have fun while you sit there, like.
Yeah, no, that's why it's in my number fours because sometimes you encounter graveyard hate and it just feels like a kick in the nuts. But
Yeah.
but
Because I mean, name a black deck you have that doesn't have Bajuka Bog in it. And if you do have a black deck without Bajuka Bog in it, why do you not have Bajuka
yeah,
Bog in it? You know?
and I feel like there's so much graveyard hate now, and there's even ways now like Ghost Vacuum to like have your own advantage off graveyard hate, which is kind of disgusting. I don't know if you know what graveyard does, but you can exile a card from a graveyard as a tap ability, and then later on in the game you can pay, I think it's 6 mana, and you can bring back each card as like a token spirit basically. So it's like just pure graveyard hate on top of like you get some value out of it.
Like my graveyard, it's like not even, it's like my exile plan, my exile manipulation is better than your graveyard
Yeah,
manipulation.
it it's mainly my top four just because I think it's fun. Not whether it's good or not. Like I'm like obviously it can be good, but yeah, it's in my fourth just because I think it's fun and I think it's pretty fair. But there's other strategies that I like more. But yeah,
No,
that's
absolutely.
that's about it for me. So what
Yeah.
you got going?
I got go wide. Now, admittedly, I don't think I own a single deck with a go wide mentality. And there's a reason for that. But ever since I started, getting into Magic, watching Magic, specifically, I have a specific commander in mind. I've always loved the idea of a deck. And excuse me, an Elf Ball Lilithrill deck. I just want like one day from the Innistrad Remaster, my girlfriend pulled a Craterhoof Behemoth, and I was mad because I wanted Craterhoof so that
Yeah,
I could build a Lilithrill deck with a Craterhoof Behemoth in it. And I want an Elf Ball deck, and I want to make it good, but I don't know what it is. I just love the idea. Oh, here's this engine, and I make a million little guys all coming at you, and actually, not even they're all coming at you just yet. Like, not even a million little guys. I have a million little guys, and now they're a million giant guys, and they're all coming at you. I just think it's fun. It just like, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like I'll always have blockers. I'll always have cheat blockers. Like, oh, I don't. Oh no, you took my 1/1. Whatever we do, So that's
yeah,
kind of really my main opinion. The defense of the deck, and then always that idea of like, you'll always get some sort of damage, even if it's just a little bit. Like, oh, yeah, you can block, 4, but you can't block 5, So that's really my favorite part about like just like those ball decks. I just love ball
yeah.
decks.
There's
But
there's whoa. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways to build around. I'm like either wide decks or token decks, which usually if you're going wide, it's a token deck.
yeah.
Uh, I I do have a token deck, and like I would say it like it's kind of on the weaker side, but I kind of feel like I bought the deck obviously because I wanted it, but I feel a little disgusting when I play it because I'm just like I don't know. The making all your 1/1s, 5/5s, it feels kind of gross. And it just seems like, I don't like snowballing with a
Yeah.
certain deck. Like obviously you know, I do have one deck in particular that I do like to just upgrade all the time. But that's
Yeah.
that's a different story. That's just one deck. I don't build all my decks to you know snowball into oblivion. And I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of times token decks do that if you don't keep them in check.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, it's kind of in the game plan. It's either like, oh, snowball and win the game or do nothing, you
yeah,
know?
and that's fair to say, and that's fair to why you like it.
But yeah, I just, I don't know. That too, I agree too, because like you can kind of run like interest decks where it's like, well, I have all these 1/1s, but nothing to do with it. You're just kind of sitting there waiting for
Yeah,
that snowball effect to come into your hand so that you can win the game, you know? Because otherwise, a lot of times, you have to kind of either you have to rely hard like, combo piece in your hand, the battlefield, or you kind of just have to wait the game out and just kind of turn it into a grind fest. Just sit there and wait, let people get each other low until everyone's within 5 health. Well, you're at 5 health and I have 10 1/1s and you only have 5 creatures out, so you can only block. And then it just kind of turns into this like long slugfest that just takes forever, and you finally squeeze out the win. And so those games they're either over like that and just as quick as possible, or they turn into a real slug.
yeah, but yeah,
But
token decks going wide, they're really fun.
but the
Um,
reason I said this at the beginning, I kind of hinted towards it. The
mhm.
reason I don't have that little when I think about it, so sorry if I get a little emotional.
Yeah, Josh,
Second
you're kind
podcast
of
episode
you're
ever.
you're kind of chopping up a little bit.
Okay,
Uh,
sorry.
but yeah,
I'll slow down. But I wanted to make this Lilithrill deck to the point where like I have this friend and he's kind of really gay and everyone hates him. Not really, but I've been friends with him for a long time, and I finally got my Lilithrill card, a full Lilithrill. I can't wait to build this Lilithrill deck. And so he has another commander I wanted to build with Sauron, and he trades me for I trade him a Lilithrill for Sauron. One-sided trade, but like he's a good friend. We've known each other, so it was just kind of one of those things. Like I got a card I wanted, he got a card, and so I told him that like since day one, literally day one of me playing Magic, the first deck I wanted to build was a Lilith, and he goes home and builds a Lilithrill deck with the Lilithrill I gave him. Which, in all fairness, I gave him the card. I don't know what else he was gonna do with it, but I hate having matching decks because like it feels unoriginal. It's like, oh wow, like now we just have the same deck. Like I don't know, it just feels a little weird to me. Like I just don't like it. And I was so mad. And like I confronted him too. I was like, you knew I wanted to make this little thrill deck. And you went home and made it. And at the time I had this like Thorin deck that was terrible. Like it was a really bad aristocrat deck. But it had so much removal in it. It just kind of like I played a 1v1 game that lasted 2.5 hours with this deck just because if anyone played anything, I was able. And so I'd already decided like I don't like this deck anymore. Kind of like even like took it out of my like deck box and like set it off to the side. I knew I was going over there and I knew I built that Lilithrill deck and I brought that deck. And I literally all day sat there. We were playing in a 4 stack at this point. I sat there and I just removed everything that he played. And I literally told him, I said, I'm not going to win any of these games, but you definitely aren't winning any of these games. And I just sat there and it was probably the silliest I've ever been and really a low point as a probably, but I just sat there and made sure that he could do nothing the entire game. I was like, thanks for stealing my entire flow, dude. But anyways,
yeah,
so that's why I don't have a go wide yet.
yeah. Littoral's really fun, but yeah, that going wide, very cool. Uh, we'll hop into our number three right now, and so my number three is I have Lands Matter decks. So a Lands Matter precon was one of my first decks I ever bought, and when I was playing it for the first time, I thought it was so fun, and I still have it and I still play with it, and it's still like just as fun as I opened it. But now that I've learned more about the game and been exposed to more cards, it I realized there's so much you can do with landfall or land recycling decks, and uh I just think it's more fun than it is. Like it, I know a lot of people might think landfall decks or land decks in general aren't the best, but I just think it's fun. That's why it's in my number three. Is just I just have a blast playing those kinds of decks. And
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, what's up?
think about it. What does every deck need? Lands. You know, every deck needs lands. Every deck uses lands, and these kind of decks do it better. You know?
Yeah. Um, I just like the fact of like getting value out of something that you're gonna play anyways, or something that makes green so powerful is just the mana advantage. It's just like the ramp you can get out of lands matter decks. It's insane. And the the only reason it's number three rather than number one or number two, because I do have a blast playing these, is you know these kinds of decks, they're kind of, I mean, same thing with the Enchantress. They can get pretty annoying, and most of the time I feel like these decks are built around like something super powerful. Like usually if you have that much mana, you're gonna cast something really big, or you're gonna have summons. You're gonna like have a landfall trigger that happens like you know 5 to 10 times in a turn. So the deck is more than likely going to be pretty powerful, but I do think land is kind of something that, uh, unless you build around it, it's just kind of used as mana. So as soon as you like build a deck where lands have like a key purpose to them, I feel like it's really hard to like other players to interact with it, because like let's say they wipe you board, well, now on your turn you have 20 mana to rebuild, and it's pretty resilient to stuff like that.
And half that mana turns into creatures.
Yeah, so it gets kind of annoying, and something that I do like about it is how much, what's the word, how much you can do with it, the amount of uh the interaction you have with your own deck. Like you
Yeah.
actually play the deck. There's a lot of game actions that you do when you play these kinds of decks. And I don't know. It's fun, using your deck. You built it to play with it. And
Yeah.
so it can also get annoying for other players whenever you're having to search your deck 3 different times in a turn for a land, or have to shuffle your library 3 different times. It can get pretty arduous for you and for everyone else. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's I have a blast playing these decks. It's just sometimes they can get kind of annoying to deal with, to either deal with or to deal with as a player. I feel like it's not a control deck, but I feel like I use my brain a lot more when I use these lands decks.
Yeah. I know a lot of times playing against it, it's like it kind of turns into one of those things like I've it's like ties like untap and then I kind of zone out. After about 10 minutes of doom scrolling on TikTok, I look up, I'm like, "Holy shit, what is going on? Like what did I miss?" Yeah, cuz it's like those turns they get to that point where just like it takes forever. And then like finally after like a 10-minute turn, and all of that to say, I have 50 million 4/4 cactuses. And I'm like, what? How did we get here? It's like,
No, yeah,
and
it's
so,
there was oh, I'm trying to remember. There was one game we played where I was playing this like lands matter, and I mean, it was literally that scenario. Is I was moving. I've used this deck so many times, and I know every card. Like I'm playing this optimally, and I'm moving as fast as I can, and I'm trying not to like annoy everyone at the table. I'm just trying to do my turn. I'm trying to play my cards, and I feel like I'm going as fast as humanly possible, and my turns are still taking forever. And I just feel I feel terrible because
Yeah.
I'm like I they can't blame me for like being slow or like sitting there and like doom scrolling on TikTok while other people are taking their turns. It's just
Yeah.
physically the turns take that long sometimes, and
Yeah.
it gets kind of repetitive, and that's why it's in my number three. But I mean, I'm
No.
sure you can agree, and there's a lot of decks that do that, but
Yeah, because Ty's probably the best Magic player I know in just the sense of like he knows what he's doing going into it. He never have sitting there and like, oh, hey, what is it? Oh, that's what that card does. Like Ty knows what he's doing, and like watching him pilot a Lands Matter deck really is kind of awesome in an extent because like you're just watching him do like a million things and like he literally never stops. Like I'm watching him sweat sitting here shuffling his cards 45 different or like going through his entire deck and doing all these things. And so, like, Ty is no slouch when it comes to like, he doesn't take long turns if he doesn't have to. And still, he takes and honestly, his turns probably take longer with a land than someone that doesn't know what they're doing, simply for the fact that this guy will never miss a trigger. Like, he's not like, there's so many triggers with a Lands Matter deck. Like, it's really easy to kind lose like, oh, I missed like 5 triggers in one turn, but at least the turn's over. Ty's not missing a thing. Like if I had a nickel for every time Ty's looked at me and been like, doesn't your commander work like this? And I'm like, oh yes, Ty, you're right. So he's doing when he says he's optimized with this deck, he is optimal with this deck. He doesn't miss a single thing. So
yeah, I want you to know my pants are down right now. But
flag on the play, unnecessary dick riding.
yeah, I'm kind of wet over here, but I think I'm gonna sit here and clean up while you talk about your number three. But yeah,
Yeah.
Lands Matter. I have a blast. Not everyone at the table has a blast, so that's why it's at the number three spot.
Yeah. My number 3 spot, just kind of keeping it simple, going tall. I just love big creatures. Like my Eldrazi deck, it was my favorite deck for a long time. I just like the security that big creatures. Small creatures, it's like, dang, if they have trample, like I'm screwed. But if I have the biggest creatures on the board, outside of blue players, I have nothing to really worry. It's like there's nothing really on the board that can hurt me, creature wise. That can hurt me if I have the biggest board. Because and I like that sense of security. And that too, just that kind of like that like Cold War aspect, like go ahead, swing at me, see what happens. Like, like, yeah,
Yeah,
you can swing at me, but I'm gonna kill whatever you swing. Or like that, or like even if it does get to that point in the game where like, oh, I have to swing at you. I have to send all my cards at you. And having that like, well, I'm gonna kill your combo piece. Or like, oh, you're swinging out at me, but if you do that, like you might have me dead on board, but there's 2 other players at the board and I'm hard if you kind of deal. So I really like the security that it gives, and then I just feel like I have just a big old set of kahunas. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm gonna tap 8 mana and I'm gonna drop this 10/10. Like it just feels good,
yeah.
and
A lot of those decks. I feel like a beginner. That's kind of like their first thing they might build is like, oh, big creature. But there's a lot of ways that you can build a deck around like actually supporting it. Like where your deck is more than just a big creature deck, but it's like a big
yeah,
creature deck that gets you, value or something. So it's like you still
yeah.
have the value out of the deck, but you still have that intimidating big creature that it doesn't matter what level of play you're at, it's still an intimidating big creature.
Yes, because especially nowadays with power creep, like there's not really with these there's not really a such thing as like just a big creature with big power. I mean, obviously you have like Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is literally just like a 5 green mana 10, or literally green, 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 green. I don't know, 5 greens and a 10/10.
Yeah.
You have stuff like that, but like your big creatures also have big text now too, and I think that is probably one of my favorite parts too. Is it's like, my favorite deck that I have right now. It's my pet deck. That's my spiky deck, is my Sauron deck.
Yeah.
And it's a heavy deck, and it has a lot of text on all of those cards, and I just kind of love that feeling of like, here's this one card, deal with it. I love that feeling. So
Yeah.
no matter what card it is, I love it.
It definitely puts usually when people do like a threat assessment of any sort, the first thing they look for is who has the biggest power on the board.
Yeah.
But I feel like you can even use that to your own advantage, like you said earlier, of like kind of politicking or like Cold War esque of, all right, you can swing at me, but you can't kill me. So what do you
Yeah.
expect I'm gonna do with this? Turn it sideways and
Yeah.
point it at you. That's probably what's gonna happen.
Like that cinder block grinding noise, just.
Yeah, that's more likely than not is what's gonna happen. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
going tall, pretty fun.
yeah,
You can either
absolutely.
go
What you
you can go on the low IQ side of it or build a deck of, getting some good value, which is always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it's pretty simple, not a lot to it. I just like big things with big text, but I see. But Ty, what do you got at the number 2 spot?
All right, number two. You know, the number one and number two pick are kind of like where you start weighing them,
Yeah.
and my number two is it's kind of two things, but they do the similar things of what I want to achieve in a deck is I have blink and bounce. So the reason why I kind of combine those two is because I feel like they both recycle value, and
Yeah.
kind of like with the lands matter deck, you're kind of recycling your lands for value. I feel like blink and bounce does the same thing, but you can do it with other permanents more than just lands. And more often than not, they're going to have a better ability than a land or better ability than a landfall trigger because there's so many ETB effects, so many enter the battlefield effects and leave the battlefield effects. And if you're able to just like recycle those, uh, it starts to get me feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's in my number two spot because it's just like you you feel like you got a happy plate. Like you're not leaving crumbs on the plate. You're squeezing as much value as you can out of a card if you have ways to like enter the battlefield again or have ways to evade your opponent's stuff. I just think it's really fun.
No, I agree. Well, that too, you got to think you're always gonna have value. Like, well, I guess I'll in turn. Like, like I mean, I have this 5 I can't do anything with it. But with blink, blink and bounce, you'll always like you can just like siphon value from what you have, no matter how big or little. You'll always have something to do. And I think that in and of itself is helpful, and especially like bounce, not just your own stuff, but like bouncing other people's stuff. I think it's so underrated because it's so cheap. And this too, I think a lot of people don't think about this. Bounce is so good because you know what they're gonna do next turn. Because if you're bouncing something, you're bouncing a piece or whatever their best card on the battlefield is. 9 out of 10, they're just gonna play it again. And so now, not only did you just get rid of their combo piece, but now they're gonna have to waste another turn just to get it out again. And I think that's kind of like people don't really think about that as much whenever they think of like unsung. They're like, oh dang, yeah, but they can just play it again. But it's like, yeah, but then they have to play it again.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about this before, and it's like if you think about it, because like it it kind of like leaves a timer. Bounce like leaves a timer of like when your opponents can help you out remove a threat. You can kind of be like, all right, I can bounce it now, and we have another turn cycle to deal with it. And also, it just like you said, like you know what they're gonna do next turn. Is not only do they not have their creature on the board anymore, is now they're just gonna be behind on mana next turn because
Yes.
you just got like let's say 8 mana worth of permanent off their battlefield, and it's either their options are not play it, which is good for you, or they have to spend 8 mana again.
Yes. And that too, what I like about it is like this kind of gets in the politics of it. When you bounce something, it's like, okay, I've dealt with, like, you look at the other guys, I've dealt, know he's going to get it back out again. Now it's up for you guys to play, what is it? The 4 mana Putrefy. I
Yeah,
played Unsummon. I played my 1 mana. I've done all I can do, guys. You could take it this far. You could have genuine removal for, but if you can just bounce it, then you're hurting the person who's you're bouncing the card, and then you're looking at everyone else and you're, well, I've done all I can do, and now they're having to waste to actually dispose of the threat. So I think bounce is very bad. And
yeah,
then blinking your own board. I mean, there's so many possibilities with that. There's so much you can do. The horizon is limitless almost with like how much value you can squeeze from just every card in the deck.
yeah. For those who don't know, blinking is just kind of bounce. Uh, Pretty common of just you return a card from the battlefield to your hand, and blinking is it goes in exile and then immediately comes back. So it's just a term of a card being sent to exile and then being brought right back to the battlefield. And you might think, well, why would you do that? It's like I said before, there's so many cards that have enter the battlefield effects. So you can basically just get another trigger out of that. And if you build your deck around it where you have a lot of creatures that do something when they enter or have something when they leave, you can kind of like, you know, you get
Yeah.
you're basically getting a double trigger for hypothetically an effect that you can use for like 1 mana, like a blink effect or something.
Yeah, because that too, a lot of times, enter the battlefield or leave the battlefield effects, they're really powerful because, like, most of the time it's only meant to happen once during, the game. And now you're making it happen, at least one other time, but like preferably as many times as you want. And then with that too, it's just a lot of fun to pilot because
Yeah,
kind of like back to what I said, you always have something to do. At no point are you just like, sitting. I mean, unless like you get board wiped and then like you're just rebuilding. But if you have a board state out, at no point like you're not just gonna stall out because it's like, oh well, I'm just gonna keep blinking my stuff and I'm gonna keep bouncing your stuff or my stuff. So
yeah,
it's just like I agree. I think that this is a good pick, especially at number two.
yeah. Right before I move on to your number two pick, I was gonna tell you a card that I want to build a commander deck out of uh, that revolves around blink. Is so I'm probably gonna butcher this. It's a pretty sure this is the Baller Gate set card. It's Abdel Adrian Gron's Ward. So it says when he enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until your commander leaves the battlefield. So basically, you're exiling your own stuff while your commander's out. But then it says create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exiled this way. So what you're doing is you're exiling your whole board via your commander, and then for everything you exile of your own, you make a creature token. So that's pretty cool. Uh, the
Yeah.
the sick part about it is you can use all your blink abilities that are in your hand or bounce abilities that are in your hand on your commander because once your commander leaves the battlefield, everything that was exiled from him goes immediately back on the field.
Oh
So
wow.
so the game plan is your whole board has enter the battlefield effects or leave the battlefield effects, and just playing your commander is almost like this huge like power surge of value. And then as soon as he leaves, it's like usually when your commander leaves, that's a bad thing. But when this commander leaves, it's you're just generating so much recycled card advantage or like recycled, removal or blah blah blah.
Yes. And you can keep bouncing them to your hand so you're not to get around the commander tax.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And I didn't even say
Wow.
this, but this is one of those Baldur's Gate cards that says choose a background, which is just a mechanic where you can have an enchantment uh, in addition to your commander if it's a background subtype. And the background subtype I chose with this one is commander creatures you have. Oh, sorry. Commander creatures you own have the text when this creature enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. So adding that card to your deck or as a background for your commander, it's just going to be drawing you a card. Literally, it's going to be drawing you two cards actually every time you blink it. So that's pretty
Wow.
insane because usually those blink cards, 1 mana, a couple mana, not that expensive. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Card advantage and whatever value you can squeeze from it.
but yeah,
That's good. That's insane.
yeah. Kind of rambled on, but pretty fun pick. What you got going
No,
for your number
absolutely.
two spot?
At number two, I have everybody's favorite. Just kidding. It's Aristocrat. Um, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of defense here for myself. It's just a lot of fun just draining people's lives to try to stop you, but
Yeah, you're pretty
newsflash,
you're a pretty draining
they
person.
can't. All right, get a load of this guy. But no, I just I think vampires are cool. I love Twilight. Little fun fact about me. I expect lots of hate in the comments, but no, I like it, I just draining people just slowly over time. It just I don't know, it's always interested me like just that constant value, just little cheap stuff like death by a thousand cuts. It's always been appealing to me. I think vampires are cool. I mean, that's another, like, from day one, there were three commanders, and I mean, it's a feels bad. It is a feels bad. It just, man, that's why I was so sad, like, that Sorin deck that I had. It didn't do the aristocrat part very well, but it sure did make the game last forever. That's not as fun at all. But yeah, I mean, I just like draining people. It's a fun game plan to me. And really,. I'm a simple guy. I just
Yeah.
like constant damage going on. I just love constant damage.
Yeah,
No one really ever expects it, so
what I think is so good about that strategy is there's it's another one of those scenarios where if you remove one piece, there's not a lot you can do. Like as an opponent, I mean, if I
yeah.
remove one piece off of your board, you're more than likely still gonna have all that it takes to kill me. you know?
Yeah. Well, that too, I like it because it's like that. I think, and this kind of goes back to a lot of like the ways I like to play Magic, and this will be reflected with my number one pick. But just like controlling the game is just like, yeah, sure, you can do that. I'm gonna hit you for one for it, or like, yeah, here, like, yeah, you can destroy my creature, Blood Artist. I'm gonna ding you for one
Yeah.
gain, and so it's just like that little stuff like that. Like, I love the politics of the look. I mean, you can do that. That's fine. I mean, obviously, it's a game mechanic, but when you do, it's gonna trigger this, and this is going to you. And I like that idea of like, you know, the me getting bonus perks for you trying to hurt my game plan, and I like that kind of level it adds to the game. That's probably my favorite part of Aristocrat so much is the politics of it and that kind of going back to it, that Cold War, like, sure, you can do that, but I have this. You might not want to. Maybe you
Yeah.
should do this.
Something these decks also do that I've noticed is they can almost like win it out of nowhere. It's like if you have a sack outlet on the board, Like if you have an Ashnod's altar on your board,
Yeah.
then and you have like 3 bits of drain and gain, you have 3 bits of aristocrat pieces on your board. It's like, all right, well, the table is essentially dead because as soon all you need is the tokens to sacrifice or the resource to fuel your engine, one might say. Eh,
Yeah.
but yeah, they they're pretty resilient, and I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah. I like how cheap it is. It's easy, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Um, and it just I just it feels good for me. I like controlling and so I think it's a really fun game plan, and I understand why a lot of people hate it, don't like to play against the aristocrat archetypes or game plan strategies, but man, it just feels so good having adding that extra level of control over the game. But
Yeah.
yeah. So Ty, what you got for number one?
All right. The last melon. My number one pick. Pretty simple. Pretty uh brain dead, one might say. It's just counters like +1/+1 counters and keyword counters, stuff like that. The reason why I love this so much is kind of with the go tall strategy is you can either build it as, all right, I have a board of 12/12s. They all have 10 counters on them, or there is so much support for cards that uh let you remove counters to uh remove one of your opponent's pieces, or there's so many cards that let you draw cards for counters. There was actually a card that I pulled at a pre-release recently at the Edge of Eternity's pre-release. Is uh it's like the first time you put counters on creatures you control, you can draw that many cards. And I was like, all right, so that's awesome. uh and green is my favorite color by far. It's just so much fun, and
Yeah.
there's so much support for it. And green struggles for card advantage a lot, and I feel like there's a lot of +1/+1 counter cards nowadays
Yeah.
that get you card advantage or get you resources and value that the color green might not usually be able to get you. But if you're able to use your counters as a resource for it, then that's awesome.
No, yeah. I agree. I think this is a great number one slot. Um, I love +1/+1 counters. It holds a special place in my heart. My first ever deck was the Wise Mothman, and I love +1/+1 counters. I love building the Wise Moth. I love making creatures bigger. I think this is a really good slot.
Yeah. And last thing about this, I really don't have anything bad to say about this. I feel like people can roll their eyes at it, but if you roll your eyes at +1/+1 counters, you're bad at the game, and it's it's it's
Yeah.
probably the most simple mechanic in the game. So it's been there since day one, so it's gonna be there forever. So I wouldn't, get your
Yeah,
panties in
it's
a
not going
wad.
anywhere.
So
Yeah.
uh,
L plus ratioed.
yeah. But the reason why I introduced this as +1/+1 counters decks and keyword counters or anything counters, it's because I've discovered recently that uh, it's not as common as just +1/+1 counter support, but there's a decent amount of cards that give a creature an indestructible counter, or give a creature a flying counter or a hexproof counter. And I feel like those are,
Shield counters.
yeah, shield counters, kind of like a weaker indestructible counter. But
Yeah.
I feel like those are so underrated, and
Yes.
there's a lot of things you can do with it that I think is just so fun. It may not be efficient, but I think it's pretty fun. Is you can proliferate those counters to where you can have, you know, like 3 double strike counters on a creature, and if you have a way to move those counters around, then you can start to do some pretty cool stuff with it. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a it's actually one of the fall or not Fallout, Final Fantasy precons, and I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy, but it was the Titus precon, and he lets you at the beginning of combat move counters around, and
Yeah.
it's essentially you're getting value out of like getting those double strike counters or getting those shield counters and putting them on something that you actually wanted on. And I just
Yeah.
think that's so fun because it takes the brain dead uh power, like just big creature, big power that I love about Magic, but it also adds kind of like the game action control like the pilot ability of a deck. It kind of combines
Yeah.
those two. But that's why I included the counters part to the +1/+1. But yeah,
No, yeah.
yeah.
I agree. I think that too, like I brought up shield counters. I think that's probably one of the biggest feel bads is whenever you play. It's like, here's this card, give, X number of cards, a shield counter. And it's like, dang. Like I was looking at this card and I was like, wow, I can't wait to untap and then you just play a card and you're like, actually has a shield. Well, that's off. Because it basically just kind of gives it indestructible, but it's like a little cheaper because it's not outright indestructible. So, but it basically is because it's like I'm not gonna waste removal to get rid of a shield counter. So it's like it's basically just indestructible now. Or it forces you to have to like you and another player to like, okay, well I can get rid of the shield counter. So
Yeah. But yeah,
but yeah,
pretty fun. What you got as your ultimatum? What is your magnum
uh,
opus that you like?
my magnum opus, control. I love
Ew,
control.
cringe.
every every deck I get, you might have noticed I kind of had a reoccurring. Every deck I get my hands on, how can I game with this deck? What can I do to force my will upon other players? And
Pause.
it's not always all right, but it's not always the oh, I'm gonna counter. Although that is kind of that. It's not all counter. The combos and the stopping people from playing the game outright, but it's also the like kind of like I said with the going tall, like I have these giant creatures. If you do that, they might be coming your way, or like the aristocrat can do that, but life if and I just love adding that layer of control. I think just about every deck does it in some way. That's every time I get my hands on a deck. How am I going to control? And I love counter spells because I hate when people do big stuff. I don't like it. I don't like it whenever I'm sitting there at a table and my friend starts. I don't like it. I don't like it when they play big cards that start to win them the game or outright win them the game. And I like to have cards in my hand that say, actually, you don't get to do that. I might be a bad person for it. Now, granted, I don't just like play decks with like 12 or 20 counter spells and I just make sure no one can. Obviously, I don't take it to that extent, but like I want to have a good chance that I have a counter spell in my hand. Blue's my favorite color by far, and I don't like not having answers. I always want to have some sort of control of the game, and a lot of that comes in the way of outright counter spells, So I like
Yeah.
counter spells. I always want blue. I don't like whenever I like see like a deck and it doesn't have blue. Ah, ah, you know. I kind of groan because I'm like, man, I'm not gonna have counter spells. And so that's when I kind of start to look for those other ways. Well, actually, that's a lie. I lied a second ago. Blue's not my favorite color. Black is my favorite color in all actuality. But I love blue. Blue's probably my favorite color to see in a deck, if that makes sense. Black's my favorite outright standalone. Blue,
Yeah.
if I could
I mean
add a
black.
color to a deck, it's blue.
Yeah, black has a lot of control that you like or what you look for in a deck.
Yes, I
Uh,
agree. Yeah, I love Black's board control,
yeah.
like board state control, and I
Uh,
think that's why.
One thing about control, like obviously that's probably the number one archetype that people, roll their eyes about or whatever. But
Yeah,
um, I honestly think a control deck at a table, it's almost like a necessary evil that needs to happen because
yeah,
because you know nothing makes me smile more whenever I get like a creature heavy deck and there's no one at the table with blue or black.
yeah,
It's just like, oh, I absolutely know that I'm going to, at some point in this game, just exhaust them of their control resources because they already don't have that much, and I'm just gonna steamroll. Like
yeah.
it's like if you have a table without it, it's putting the aggressive or creature based players at a pretty big advantage.
You heard it here first, folks. Thank your local control player because if it wasn't for them, people like Ty would always win.
Yeah, necessary evil is the right word for it.
No, absolutely.
It's
No, I agree because it's one of those things like you need it because no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're playing Enchantress, Graveyard, Lands Matter, Blink, Bounce, Aristocrat, going tall, going wide, flying, Voltron, Combat. It does not matter what you're playing. It can be counterspelled.
yeah,
Thing about control is because I don't have to sit here and be like, oh fuck, I'm playing black. I don't have a lot of. I have well, actually, I have zero. This artifact deck's steamroll me, but you know what it can be? It can be counterspelled. So that's probably my favorite thing is the security. It in a way it simplifies it for me because man, I don't have any artifact removal or I don't have. I can counterspell it and I don't have to worry about it. And so,
yeah. It is kind of like a catch all thing, and that can be pretty fun.
yeah, I love control decks. And not just, and like I said, it's outside of just even like the counterspell control. It's also the how can I use this deck? How can I leverage my deck to control the board state? And so, but yeah, I like to have some sort of control over the game, whether it's outside the game through controlling the stack or if I'm controlling the board or if I'm influencing decisions, I want to have some sort of whatever that looks like. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah. That's our top 5 ways to play the game. Everybody. I'm Ty. That's Josh. Let us know what you do or don't like about how we play. You know what? These are our top 5, and I don't think what y'all say would change that, but but
Tell us how much you hate us in the comments.
yeah. So those are our top 5. What are y'all's top 5? Do y'all agree with us? Disagree with us? We'd love to hear what y'all have to say. But yeah, this is Deckheads and signing off.
Peace.